So this is one of the knots that's useful in hammock camping. It's called a Marlin spike hitch, and I'll show you how to tie it here in a minute. But what I'm using for my spike right now is a empty spool thread for the thread I use to sew the hammocks and everything. This is really nice because it's lightweight, doesn't take up much room, and if I drop it on the ground, it's bright yellow. I can see it pretty easily. In the past, and like I have on the other end down there, I've used cut up aluminum arrow shafts into pieces about the same length there, just a couple inches, and so they're really lightweight and really don't take up much room, but they're really easy to lose. What I typically prefer to use if I'm doing this type of suspension is just finding a stick. I mean, that's just the easiest way. You don't have to carry anything but your straps, and there's plenty of sticks when you're out in the woods, and it really doesn't take much of a stick to use. The very first night, actually the very first night I've ever slept in a hammock, I used a Marlin spike suspension, and the stick that I used when I got out of it the next morning and took the hammock down, I stuck the stick, you know, between my fingers and thumb and squeezed it and broke it in half. So it didn't take much at all for the stick, because you're not actually holding your weight on the stick, it's actually on the knot back behind it. See if you can see that. It's hanging on the knot. If you took this thing and had it on the had the weight on the toggle itself, then yeah, you could break it, whatever you're using. But it's actually your suspension, your continuous loops, they actually set on the knot back there. See how they're trying to get some, see how it's back there behind it, that it actually sits on the knot. The only thing the spike does is to keep it keep the knot tied. And show you how to tie that knot. Might as well untying it, all you do is pull the stake out and it just comes undone. Yeah, it's a really easy knot to tie. I'm gonna put my hammock back in a stuff sack, and then I'll come back here and show you how to do it. So this was the other end of my hammock. This has just got an aluminum arrow shaft in it. You know, of course that's really super lightweight and everything, but unless you paint it or whatever, it can get lost easily on the ground. Okay, so before I show you this, I just wanted to give you a couple tips. This is a Dyneema strap. This could be used with anything for a spike, like that arrow and all that kind of stuff. But a thicker, I don't like Dyneema because it twists up on the trees and everything, so I don't use it very much. It ends up like a little thin little pencil on the tree. But straps matter when doing a Marlin spike hitch. Some straps are too thick and you can't really do it. If you use a strap a little bit thicker than this, then you'd need something thicker, a stick or something thicker like this instead of the arrow shaft or whatever. So just something to keep in mind. The thickness of your straps matter on doing a Marlin spike hitch. It's pretty easy to tie. All you do is take that over like that, so this end's on top, and then bring this up. So now it's over the top of that. All you're doing is crossing it over, and then I always take my fingers and stick through here and just reach in and grab this and pull it through. And now right there where my finger's at is where I stick the spike, and then just tighten it down and you're good to go. This could be a little cantankerous adjusting if you need to move your hammock, tighten it or loosen it just an inch or two. You know, some other suspensions are really, like with buckles and stuff like that, they're a lot easier to adjust that much, but because you try to raise it up a little bit and it's too high, and then lower it and it's too low, and so if you really want to save weight though, it's worth it. But I'll show you again. You just take this side, cross it over so it looks like that, and then I'm going to slide it down a little bit so you can see it, and then you just bring it over the top of that strap. And like I said, I normally just stick my two fingers through here, and then I'm grabbing this strap and pinching it and pulling it through like that. and then that's where I stick the spike at. It's like this. So what you do with your continuous loop is, like I said, you don't want to put the pressure on the spike, because no matter what you're using, you could end up breaking it. What you're actually doing is it sits back here on the knot, you know, back behind the knot, not on the knot, but back behind the knot. And then when the weight goes on, see, there's no weight at all on the stick. I can move that stick in and out freely. Of course, if I was sitting in it, it would squash it down enough where I couldn't move it, but all the weight is behind the knot. There are a lot of people who say, when they're teaching how to tie it, they say put the you know, it's on the knot, not the toggle. But then if you're putting it on the knot up here, you can still end up getting it on the toggle. So I always say put it behind the knot, and that makes it a little bit more clear, so you're not messing up. But that's it. That's one way to use the Marlin spike hitch, and I'll show you another way here in a minute. Okay, so another thing I like using the Marlin spike hitch for is my tent stakes. You could take a knot, that, and then just use it to stake, but this zing it and lash it, once you tie a knot in it, it's really hard to get out. So I like using the Marlin spike hitch when I'm tying out my tarp to my stakes, because it makes it a little bit easier. I don't have to sit there for 10 minutes trying to get a knot out. But it's the same thing as we did on the tree straps. I got my tarp, the wind's fighting against me right now, but same thing. Just cross it over, and I reach through with my fingers and grab this other piece, and all I gotta do is slip it over my stake and tighten it down, and that's it. It holds great. It comes in tight easy, and if you wanted to, instead of untying it, you can just pull the stake out through, just like the spike. But see how I can just get some release some tension, and it just slips right off, and then that to pull each end and it comes apart. It's really nice. The Marlin spike hitch is really useful for stuff like this, or for hammock suspension, and you could probably find a lot of other uses for it too, but it's really useful knot for hammock camping.